to call manga for you, you quickly came on.
Yo, almami hamantane ndo ibuga ko download Facebook tayi nganan ma filan.
Really? What happened? What happened? I missed that one.
I saw one small boy insulting almami all over. He wanted to run away from Facebook.
Oh, is it that one you were dealing with?
Mom do is ngo param rek def di daw boy.
Hey, he runs.
What deka bi boy? Deka bi what deka boy do dox de. Why? Deka bi ni. People just look at you out of nothing, you know, and boy, ki buy madam wako lumania. Melni nyom dal, you know, moy lulu, you know. I don't get it.
I think the advantage is because so they can say whatever they want to say, but for you, people will tell you, "Oh, we expect much from you." But me, I don't do that no more.
Oh, good. I never have been doing that, you know.
For me, I do.
The matter is that I respect people for who you are. I give them. Look, I don't disrespect people out of nothing, and people that I don't know, like I've never seen you, I've never met you. All of a sudden, you want to rain me insults from top to bottom out of nothing. Just your Facebook, you know, no. And a lot of people are like, yo, fateko, you know, when people continue to castigate, insult, it becomes very normal for any other person to pick it from there.
From there, that's true.
That's suffering.
That's true. That is absolutely true.
Well, how's it going, man? You know, it's good to be back on here, you know.
Yeah, I'm right here. I've extended a public acceptance to Dr. Cisse. Apparently, there's a challenge going on in Gambia where he made a public.
But I don't understand that. I saw your post, but I because I don't think I see posts from Dr. Cisse.
Okay, there was a public challenge on West Coast on Peter Time. Peter Gomez, coffee time with Peter Gomez and Doctor. Apparently, it was brought to my attention. Actually, I didn't see it initially, and somebody sent it to me to say that Doctor is saying that anybody that dares to challenge him on a debate would be shattered.
Oh, debate over what? Like governance?
Governance, yeah, issues of governance. I believe, yeah, issues of governance. So
I've got a
So I took on the challenge. So I'm waiting for the kind acceptance of the doctor. I know, you know, I can't even match his standards, but I will try.
What do you mean you can't match his standards?
Let's leave it at that. Don't even ask me what I mean. Just leave it at that. Just leave it at that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. You know, Gambia is something else. But you know,
and of course, today. This was, I think even the court was shocked. I don't think anybody saw this coming. I think this was even me, I didn't see this coming. This was strategic, calculated, well delivered, well executed, flawlessly executed. And it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
It hit. And right now I can tell you, I'm gonna make a prediction today. And most of my predictions do come through. I'm making a prediction that we would be receiving an official medical paper or document to say that Mr. Sankara is unable to travel to the Gambia. No,
I think he's in the Gambia at the moment.
You sure?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No, he is.
Well, let's see.
He is.
He is in the Gambia?
Yes.
I'm told he's not in the Gambia.
No, he went, you know, some PhD programs are either research-based or you go there for a semester, you do a couple of coursework, and then you can go back and then you correspond with your professors.
But I was told, I was informed that he was ill as well. In fact, that's why he decided to take this.
Anyway, at the moment, he's in the Gambia.
Okay, well, it's going to be, that is going to be, as Dr. Carroll would say, it's going to be a monumental cross-examination of his evidence in chief or whatever, his testimony.
Gambia is an interesting country, you know. But the fact is that I knew from the beginning somehow, you know, because I've been advocating for these folks to be subpoenaed to court because they've said a lot. And to start this conversation, when this incident happened on the 12th, I think the first person to send this to me was my mother. So I because we know this dude, we grew up in the same hood. You know, I know him from child. It's not that I just jump into a case that I felt, oh, government did something wrong. This is somebody I know. I know him personally. not just knowing him from a peripheral level, I know him from within. We grew up in the same hood. We went to the same primary school. At some point I left Bruford Primary School at third grade because I got to go to other schools here and there. But then since then, we've now been in the same, environment as in school here and there. But like we live in the same community, we live in the same neighborhood. And he was in the same class with my, my auntie's daughter, my first cousin, and all the way to high school. And they're close friends. So this is somebody that frequently comes to
Like
my
personally, up
yeah,
close
that
and
who comes
personal.
to my house, who comes to our, neighborhood, and we know, and like I know him personally. And then I'm like, "Dafa toga boy the Chan," even though I don't drink attire, but like it's somebody you know. And at one point, we established a Red Cross link in Bruford, and then some of these folks joined, and then sometimes, you organize meetings, and they're all there. So these are people that you know from way back. And then growing up, people go into their diverse ways and all of that, but you still have that relation and that connection. Anytime you see, what's going on. So it's not that some of us jump into the case, and we cannot leave our own community members being victimized in the way this dude is being, because when the incident happened and different photos came out, let me just give a little chronology of how some
Synopsis,
of
yeah.
these
Just
things
go
happened.
down memory lane. Let people have an idea,
So
especially people who are following who were not following
yeah.
before. Yeah.
Yeah. So when this incident happened on the 12th, it was until the 13th around, the afternoon that they brought Usain Bojan's photo and say, oh yeah, he's the one who did this, whatever, killing of the cops. And initially I thought, oh, it could happen because these boys, they're into all these Westerners, and, sometimes you're at the beach and doing all those kind of, things. People might either get into some things that probably is not part of their original being, and you could say, okay, maybe something happened. So initially I thought it could be true, I don't know. But when I realized that everything was not true was less than 30 hours later, when Sankara came out to give a whole script about the case. That was a prepared script. It was prepared prior to the incident, and it was meant to taint a particular group of people in a political line. You don't need to go to school to understand the basics around that. Because if Sankara told me somebody I grew up with, went to school with, I know him in the hood, that is a rebel, he was hired to kill, he was lodged in the mortal, he was in the Casamas rebellion, he was at the UDP court case, and he is, an ally of Yankuba Dabo, works in Brikama area council. That connects to only a single fact.
When was this timeline? When was this? Was this the day
This
after?
was this was 30 hours after they got Hussein Bojang. So they got Hussein Bojang on the afternoon of the 13th. The incident happened on the 12th. So the evening of the 13th. So by the time, this guy got to speak, it was almost 30 hours later. That's about, 24 hours later after the guy's capture, around 30 hours. So it's like about 2 days in between. And then it was early morning on coffee time that Sankara actually spoke the way he did. And then you realize that 30 hours into an investigation about killing of two officers and leaving one, seriously wounded, would have been very premature that Sankara to give us a detailed report. Sankara did not give us a preliminary report. That was a conclusive report.
Very
That
detailed, huh? Within 30
very
hours.
detailed. Very detailed. It was 11 minutes of, straight talk.
And that was within
30 hours.
30 hours of the
30
actual
hours.
incident occurring.
Exactly. That
Yeah.
they got the guy, he was hired to kill. Part of the money he was paid was recovered. That, he met his co-conspirators in a mosque. And
Wow.
then when he met them in a mosque, they actually provided him the escape vehicle into the thick forest of Casamas. These are the words of Sankara. I could play his audio, like
Do
probably
it,
that
do
will
it,
give
do
us,
it, do it. Carry on,
like,
please. Please, yeah.
that will give us a better taste of it.
Yeah.
I have his photo here. I
Can you
can
hear?
show you. Um, in
I can
both,
hear, yeah.
he actually was there in attendance and participated during that demonstration
That is
in
the
the
UDP
last
court case.
appearance. As of last night, several
This
suspects
was
were
the interview
identified
on Coffee Time with Peter
and
Gomez.
arrests
Yes.
have since begun. Um, President Barrow has assured that under our democratic dispensation, all and every person accused no matter how heinous their alleged crime or crimes, will be accorded their rights to legal representation and go through the full legal cycle, and as in all democracies.
Pastor Maja will be very happy to hear that.
Oh, really?
Yes, he was. You didn't hear his commentary. No, he was worried about all these calls for reimposition of the death penalty and some of the public reaction you hear. Let me read this text, for instance. Hello, good morning, Uncle Peter. This man who shot the officers should not be taken to prison. Let them just investigate him, and after the investigation, let him just be killed by hanging. And all the media platforms should be present and take live TV.
He killed two innocent young men, and they gunned him down of a female policewoman, who were doing nothing but doing national duty. I think it's a very heinous crime.
Yes.
And anybody who celebrate this crime, really, you need to see a psychologist for some mental evaluation.
And to be honest, there have been celebrations on social media.
Yeah, I'm
through audios and, all kinds of things.
Yeah, I have been sleepless for the past 2 days. President Barrow actually didn't sleep the whole of Tuesday night. And, because he cannot just believe that people could just orchestrate this kind of thing. And Peter, I'm not going to dwell into most of the information I have.
That's why I'm not asking certain questions.
Yes,
as I sit here, I know. I've been tempted to ask certain questions.
The information is overwhelming. In America, they say TMI, too much information. And I have to be very economical, like they say in the Gambia, with what I have. At least it affects the investigation. Absolutely. But what I can tell you is hard.
Can you pause? Can you pause?
I like gunmen.
So I found that quite interesting. He says, I have too much information. I will not even say it, lest I be prejudicial to the matter.
Yep.
But he then could say that this guy was a member of the United Democratic Party, that this guy was seen in a UDP riot, that this guy was a trained marksman, that this guy received amounts of money, that this guy, like you said, was caught in the deep forest of Casamance. But these were not prejudicial to the case.
That's
Carry on.
He and his co-conspirators.
Yeah,
There will have been chaos and confusion in this country because for a good 1 week, they were surveillancing paramilitary posts.
1 week.
Checkpoints, and they wanted at least kill half a dozen paramilitary officers.
So they wanted to kill half a
That was
dozen.
the motivation. So the police are unearthing evidence after evidence after evidence, and family members, friends who actually knew about this, people that the perpetrator spoke to and confided and confessed, should also report to the closest police station or the nearest police station.
See that?
The man
You see?
after he shot this.
You know, when you do, there's something called forensic psychology. It's basically psychology, but looking at the scientific basis of occurrence, things that shape the human mind for people to act, behave, think in a certain way. Did you realize where he mentioned that they were asking people that he had confessed to come forward?
Mm-hmm.
That was key, because what that was seeking to do is to lay the foundation for people like Mama Jabi.
Certainly, of course.
Carry on. I just picked that up. Carry on.
Allegedly, so these people was met by co-conspirators at a mosque within that vicinity, who actually provided the getaway car and drove him into the thick forest of Casamance
At a mosque.
For safety.
So what he said here is that he met his co-conspirators within the vicinity, and then they provided him the escape vehicle into the thick forest of Casamance. But remember, Usain Bojang traveled with the sister, and then he went to the garage in Jululum. But Sankara told us that his co-conspirators met him in a mosque.
Provided a
They
vehicle.
provided him a vehicle. But where did the vehicle take him? Into the thick forest of Casamas. So a rebel who is taking to the thick forest of Casamas left the forest and came to a garage to be crying about a white person he's got a problem with.
So the police have uncovered this because Mr. Bojang has been exceptionally cooperative.
He said Mr. Bojang has been exceptionally cooperative. Exceptionally.
And they're very happy with his
And the police were very happy.
Again, as you say, we are trying not to divulge too much. But when you talk about attack on police stations and an intention to kill more than half a dozen security officials, every time, you know, I mean, security installations have been attacked in this country, it's been with a calculated attempt to topple the government. You're not suggesting that this could have been the latest attempt to topple a democratically elected government in the Gambia?
It would be premature to say that. However, preliminary investigations are just overwhelmingly interested. I would put it that way.
Yes, yes, we need to be very careful.
And I'm not alleging anything. I'm just saying that preliminary investigations are yielding great leads, and the police are very happy.
Good morning, Peter.
The youths are happy, the police are happy.
In expressing my heartfelt condolence to the victims' families and entire Gambia. Peter, I don't know what is the secret behind the shootings. I don't think it's necessary for government spokesman to come there and give us the president's reaction. We all see his reaction. Let them work on the reforms. I suppose that would be security reforms, truth and reconciliation. That is better.
This is a comment. This is a comment being read.
The money to the people who desire. I suppose this is about acting on the recommendations of the TRRC and also, you know, really moving faster with the security sector reforms.
Peter, that is a great question for another day. Today, Gambians are talking about the death of two innocent men. That has nothing to do with TRRC. It has nothing to do. Well, is there evidence that we are complicit in the atrocities that happened here 22 years ago? Absolutely not. These are young kids, Peter. You know, so when we are addressing serious issues, let's talk about serious issues. By no means trying to diminish or devalue the significance of the TRRC. It's one thing I supported fully. But today, I think every conscious and conscientious Gambian should be worried that the people who actually put their lives on the line or in the line and every day come sign on the roads, in the ravines, on the bridges, where it's hot corner. These are people who sometimes without even arms, Peter, stand there to make sure that we are secure. So I think when they suffer, every Gambian should actually feel that you've lost a family member.
Good morning, Peter. My fear is the judiciary to claim the culprit's insanity proven by false medical reports. I know the police will do their part professionally and efficiently. I pray for the highest place in Jannah for the deceased and a speedy recovery for the female constable. I suppose in this matter, you know, as President says, everybody will work towards, you know, reaching the right decision, so that all parties, you know, get the justice they demand, they deserve. I suppose that's all right.
I have no evidence that fake medical reports are a tradition in court cases. Probably the questioner knows better. I wouldn't dwell on stuff that I'm totally innocent and ignorant about.
So President Barrow has visited the crime scene. He's visited the hospital, WPC, the hospital where she's admitted battling her life. I mean, did he chat to you about his experience, things he might have said, you know, at the crime scene in Sukuta, and what transpired between her and, you know, the victim in hospital?
until the investigations began to unravel, he actually wasn't so what the he was just so curious what the motivation. Everybody wants to know what the motive for this could and Peter, Gambians are also very good at confusing people. After the right person was identified and arrested, right person providing images and photos of the wrong people, totally innocent. Yeah, that's what confused. That's what social media does. In this case, though, I think social media has done a good job I think families talking, and then they say he's in neighborhood, he's here. So sometimes social media is not all that, yeah. Nobody's saying all the time. Yeah, positively put to use is a very good tool. Absolutely. Yes. But the negative, and that was why it was designed. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Not to insult mothers and, yeah. He gave 100,000 to the victim or the victim's family, I understand. The victim's family. Yeah. Yes. That was $1 million bounty for anybody who may. In this case, I think since it's not. That's the bounty on the head of the. I hear 100,000. Yes, the 100. And then the Deputy Inspector General of Police, also actually gave 25.
So I think the rest of it is quite irrelevant. But the most important thing in this is that Sankare told us that Useno Bojang, met his co-conspirators in a mosque, and they provided him the escape vehicle into the thick forest of Casamas. Now, we still want to look at the chronology of things and how they happened. Now, when Sankara said this, and he said the dude is a rebel, he was hired to kill, part of the money he was paid was recovered, and his co-conspirators, took him to the thick forest of Casamas. They were surveillancing paramilitary bases for a full 1 week. The first thing that came to my mind was like, Oseno lives in Bruford, and then there is a paramilitary base if you're going to Tanje, just by the forest. That is very, very easy if you want to kill people unnoticed, because that is just in the middle of a forest. Why did he not go there, which is closer to his house? Why did he have to go all the way to Sukuta traffic light, which is a crowded place? Again, that was a doubt to me. And the second part was that you said he's a rebel. This is somebody I know and grow up within the community. How is he a rebel? Probably, I said to myself, it's possible that somebody might, anybody can kill people. But then if you tell me he's a rebel, then that's a questionable part. Again, if you tell me he met his co-conspirators in a thick forest and they actually, provided him an escape vehicle into the thick forest of Casamas, just for Mama to come out and say, oh yeah, I got the person who killed the cops. But what did Mama do? Usenu, upon arriving in Casamas on the 13th, seeking for help in relation to his, white ladies' issues here and there, Mama capitalized on the vulnerable situation, because if you look at the person's posture, you would have understand that this is a troubled person. And of course, knowing fully well that an incident like killing of the cops happened in the Gambia, she deliberately or intentionally tried to frame the dude. Now, if you listen to Mama's audio, it's typically in Mandenka. Mama, while talking to this dude, he said, oh, do you know my relation with the president? Or you killed the cops? While the guy himself is talking about, I even tried to apologize to my family members, and they said, no, this person, like the lady that he's got a relationship with, is giving materials to other people, doesn't want to have anything to do with him. He believes his, other friends are the ones who are trying to instigate, the person against him. So while this person is talking about the white person, Mama is screaming on top of her voice, because he was recording it, and saying, oh, do you know whom you did this to? Do you know my relation with the president? How can you kill the cop? So when they brought this audio to the Gambia police force, and it was on the basis of this audio that they arrested Usain Oboja, there is nothing that DIG so talked about that is true. The police does not have any intel about how many calls have been done to say we were monitoring his phone prior, and after the incident we were following, tracking his phone from one point to another. He does not have that, computer science technology or background, and he does not have that, geographical understanding of, GIS or QGIS or related materials. He cannot. The police cannot do that. Now let's simplify this. You make calls every day. All of a sudden, do you want to tell me every call that is being made in the Gambia is being tracked by police officers to know that this person have like heavy telephone traffic on his phone? No. So everything DIG so said were not true. Usain Bojang was arrested on the basis of, the audio of Mama Jabi. Now, Upon arresting this dude, what they did at the police headquarters was to ensure that they transcribed this audio. This audio was transcribed 3 times. And in no part of the audio was it mentioned the killing of the cops. So the police, within their investigations and transcription, were able to establish that there is no part of this audio that this boy talked about killing the cops. Again, they deliberately came to court and said the audio is lost in contradictory statements. The DPP said the audio is lost because Mama's phone got spoiled. But Mama, in her own account, said the audio is lost because I removed my WhatsApp from my phone and I removed my SIM card. Now, the removal of WhatsApp and your SIM card has nothing to do with the phone being spoiled. Those are 2 contradictory statements. So deliberately, because the police have transcribed this audio and they deliberately refuse to bring it to court.
No, but it's simple logic. It's simple logic. Let me just get into that bit and then I'll let you continue. For the police to transcribe an audio, they have to have the audio.
Right.
And for the police to transcribe the audio, they have to engage the services of a transcriber who will transcribe the audio, because in fact, if they're leading evidence, that person needs to be called in as an expert witness to tender the transcribed audio. So the point I'm trying to make is that particular audio could not only be in the possession of Mama. So the removal of a SIM card, the removal of a phone, that audio was already in the possession of the police, and that is why it was transcribed. It made up part of the investigation.
That is why they arrested the dude. That is the incriminating audio
No,
that
I
led to
know.
the arrest of the dude.
No, I agree to you.
Right.
I am saying, I'm just buttressing your point to say that even if Mama is claiming that whatever audio is lost or not lost, that audio formed the basis of the police investigation.
Certainly, yes.
And for that audio to form the basis of the police investigation, for that audio to be transcribed, it logically means that audio is within the possession of the police.
Evidently, but deliberately. That's why I said deliberately they refused to bring it to court and claim that it is lost. But you arrested somebody on the basis of an audio. That means the police did not get the audio and they went to arrest this dude? No, they got the audio. And we know from intel within the police that they've transcribed this audio over and over and realized that there is nothing incriminating in it. But because this is an act that is masterminded within, all that they could do is to forcefully put it on this dude by every means possible to incarcerate him, because people are so used to.
But you see, okay, you see what I don't get, the part of the plan, the whole plot that I don't get is the Mama Jabi bit, the Usenu bit. Mama Jabi, if this was a plot, couldn't have been part of the plan.
No, Mama.
Because Mama Jabi couldn't have been able to figure out or foretell that Usenu would make that trip.
Yeah, evident.
But I'll tell you what happened with Mama Jabi. Mama Jabi came into the picture because of the ransom that was offered by the president.
Not only that, because he's a staunch supporter of the president.
Yes,
and an opposition to the United Democratic Party. Remember,
I'm coming to a point. I'm coming to a point. I am thinking the ransom money on one hand, and two, I don't know, and this is what I'm trying to get. That's why I want to ask you this question. Did Sankara's interview on Coffee Time happened after Usenu was arrested or prior?
When he was arrested already.
When he was arrested already?
Yes.
Was that so? That was
30 hours after his arrest.
So that was before the confirmation, the confession, alleged confession.
That's what Sankara said. After getting the dude 30 hours after that was when he spoke. So that means within that 30 hours, the dude had already confessed in his narration That's what he's
Okay.
trying to tell us. But
Okay.
but what happened, like the connection to Mama is that's why I said Mama heard the information that the police are killed in the Gambia.
In the Gambia, yes.
And then all of a sudden, while she's pretending to be a Marabu in Casamas, somebody arrived who has a different problem, but comes from the Gambia. Now, you can connect. You see somebody who, when you look at him, you realize that this is a disturbed person, and then you know that there is an incident that happened in the Gambia. It's very natural of a human for you to think, I hope this person is not connected to this particular incident. So Mama, in trying to confirm that in a way or another, said, oh yeah, hope you did not kill the cops. I heard that police are killed in the Gambia and you did that. So while Mama is trying to put those words into this dude, he's talking about the white person instead of what Mama is saying. And Mama used this same audio to circulate it. So Mama and Al-Hussein Dari called the gendarmerie of Senegal to come and get Hussein Bojan. So it's not the Gambia police force. The Gambia police force arrived in Casamas and Hussein was handed over to
He was already arrested. Yeah.
So the DIG is saying that I was actually, connecting the dots,
Coordinating.
Trying to get all these codes and all of that. It's a complete fabrication. But the question is, why will the police fabricate? But before we get to that, when you look at the audio, after transcribing it, this is the incriminating audio on which you arrested this dude. Now, you arrested the dude, you brought him, and then you gave probably 1 million to Mama. But how did you actually establish the fact that this person did this? They said they interrogated him, and then he confessed that, of course, he met his co-conspirators in a mosque, and they provided him a vehicle into the thick forest of Casamas. To this date, we have not seen any co-conspirator. Of course, when the DIG of the police came to speak at the police press conference, he reiterated that this person was at the UDP court case in Banjul, and he was with the gun in Banjul. Now, let me bring you a little bit back to connect to why all of these things, are connecting to the UDP. It was when the UDP got that court case in Banjul that Sabali's sister was being beaten by the police.
Yes.
And then it was Mamadou Sabali in writing and in audios telling Pate Jallo and Babu Jeng that we will revenge and then it is going to be ugly. Of course, Bayo Sonko and other people made similar statements and sentiments against the police. But listen to the names here. These 3 people who were stationed at this particular place, there was no sergeant whatsoever. They are all, 3 of them, police constables, young people who had just finished recruitment. Do you post 3 recruits in a particular checkpoint without a senior man? Probably they do, I don't know. But this particular place is not, a paramilitary base. During rush hours between 8 and 9, we still know that around that area is still traffic. It's only around 10 and beyond that sometimes paramilitaries put checkpoints in different locations. Now, why was the UDP complaining about Pate Jallo and Babu Jeng and another Pate Jallo is killed? Is that a coincidence? Possibly. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt that that part is a coincidence. But whereas the vehicle that was alleged to be the vehicle of the murderer, this vehicle was, photos of the vehicle were taken, and the people that were within the scene said this vehicle belongs to the murderer of these people. That vehicle belongs to a police officer, and this police officer has a gun because he's an orderly to one of the governors. Is this not a potential suspect? Probably no, still. The 3 military men that said they were chasing after the gunman said while they were pursuing this gunman,
he fired shots.
He was firing shots at them. Now, the ballistic examiner told us that only 3 bullets came out of this gun. But it is the same gun that he was firing at these officers and also firing into the sky. How comes 3 bullets that killed 2 and injured 1? That's already 3 mathematically. And then he was shooting at those folks who were chasing after them. That is math error. That cannot be just 3. But the ballistic examiner who did the ballistic examination did not even date or sign that report. It was sent to the police just like that. But of course, we know procedurally, if the police need a ballistic examination from the military, they write to the CDS, and the CDS instructs the department responsible, okay, minute or whatever, to the department responsible. And when that department is ready, unless if it is in the minute that if we are done with the examination, send it straight to the police. It would have been taken back to the CDS for the CDS office to send it to the police. How comes it was not dated and it was not really, authenticated? Something is funny here. But yet, it cannot just be 3 bullets. But whereas it is 3 bullets, let's still give them the benefit of the doubt. The watchman said, I got this person while he was running. Now, connect the dots. Somebody who killed 3 officers and he's running and he's being pursued by 3 military men. And these 3 military men, all of a sudden, because he was shooting at them and they were taking cover on fence lines, might have stopped. And this person would have continued. If nobody's pursuing him, if he passes any other person in the street, how would you know that this person did something wrong? You just see somebody running, unless you see people pursuing the person. Otherwise, you wouldn't know. I and you cannot be sitting down and somebody is running and we start pursuing him, unless we hear somebody say, Sache or something else is happening. Now, this watchman said he started following this man. And then at one point, one of the police officers, detective, said the watchman wrestled the gunman down.
Yes.
Now, you wrestle somebody down, but you cannot tell if his cloth is white or red. And upon wrestling him down, he escaped. While he is running, he did not fire at you, but he only threw the pistol at you. But it was too dark for you to see the color of his shirt, but it was quite too bright for you to see the gun he threw at you. And you picked the gun. Upon picking the gun, what he did was he called his boss, according to him, and his boss told him not to tell anybody and to hide the gun somewhere, and he will arrange for it to be picked. This gun, according to the police, was never picked until after 10 days, and because of that, it cannot be subjected to DNA, that it's been exposed to sunlight and rain. But the watchman, who was one of the state witnesses, said he picked the gun on the day of the incident, and his boss told him not to tell anybody. The watchman and his boss, what connections whatsoever do they have with the gun on an issue that led to the killing of 2 officers and left 1 injured, that they could hide it for 10 days before the police get it? Is that not, more or less concealment of evidence? And then because of that concealment, this evidence cannot be subjected to DNA. But funny thing is that every gun that the Gambia Police Force ever got from any criminal or any person, they take pictures of it and then we see it on their webpage, except this particular gun. Again, they told us Usain Bojang war, because it's the people's narration who said that the vehicle belongs to the murderer, and that vehicle belongs to a police officer. Again, it's the same people who said that this person wore a combat boot, and that is why they went to pick the combat boots they found in Usainu's terrace, which belongs to his brother. And from the beginning, I told them this combats did not belong to Usainu, they belong to his brother, and then when they come to court, that would be clear. Of course, Usainu wore the combat boots and they did not fit him in court. The brother wore them and they fitted perfectly. But to sum it all up, the government came out and told us that Usainu Bojang works in Brikama Area Council. Bro, the government has everything in its powers to know how many people and who works in Brikama Area Council within the speed of a second. Why didn't the government of the Gambia go to confirm if Usainu Bojang works really in Brikama Area Council? They did not do that. But what is the intention? What is the motive they want to send to the public? Usainu Bojang works in Brikama Area Council. He was at the UDP court case. It is the UDP who is complaining about Pate Jallo. And of course, he was in that case because UDP people were beating and they said they are going to revenge. So that is the motive. The motive altogether, we say it through. We don't say it. It's just the fact that it was primarily meant to target the United Democratic Party in every way of Sankare's narration. That this dude works in Brikama Area Council. We know this dude, we grow up with him in the community. He never works in any government institution. And they said he was hired and lodged in a motel. He works in the motel. So everything Gigi told us in their preconceived and prepared document that led to the killing of the cops is now found out to be complete fabrications. Again, even if all of these things could be possibly true, how did the government of the Gambia conclude that Usainu Bojang was having heavy telephone traffic? Yet they could not bring any call logs into the court, except, it was the defense that brought the call logs. And do you realize that the 3 military men plus one of the police, commissioners, the defense went to get their call records, and they realized that these people were even calling each other.
They were calling each other
to this incident.
Yeah.
Now, you and I cannot be talking here, or we are sitting and having a conversation at the same time I'm calling you. Or we are in your vehicle traveling to Banjul, or Melville rushed me down to MDI and I'm calling you at the same time in the same vehicle. It doesn't make any logical sense.
Yeah.
Again, how were they calling one of the police commissioners who is very much involved in posting these people at this particular location? So now, having, said all these issues, was when I looked at it, I was like, because I know this dude, he's not a rebel. That's very obvious. Nobody paid him to kill. And they said part of the money he was paid to kill was recovered, but this money never made it to court to this day. And Mama's incriminating audio is lost. And I think what the defense did today,
and the police cannot find this audio was widely
the audio is
circulated.
right
They
with me.
couldn't.
I keep
I think
posting
I
the
have it. I have
screenshot.
it on my phone even.
Exactly. So now, what is important legally? Because I'm saying a lot already. What is important legally?
No.
Tell us what exactly is it that in as much as some of us have been advocating for so long. You know what? We told the defense lawyer, you know what? We got to download all these videos and make sure they bring them to court. The honors, of proving, beyond reasonable doubt lies on the government. But this is just going beyond just, presenting Usaino's innocence, but casting doubt on the complicity of government. Because everything government said looks like a script that was prepared prior to this incident. And 30 hours after the incident, it was read. And that is why Momodu Sabali and Bayo Sonko were arrested, because these were the main targets. And these were the people who were saying, Pate Jallo, we will revenge. And a Pate Jallo was killed. It's not coincidence. And at the time this was happening, the IGP at the time, as if he's mad, left the Gambia and was traveling to China, and it had to happen in his absence. But of course, we know from intel that they were even having push and pull among themselves as for why these boys have to be put in this particular place. And government had to just move him and give the DIG an additional contract, knowing fully well that the police have started implementing a policy of not giving contract to retirees to go so that they can actually elevate the younger ones. But DIG was giving a contract when the IG, who is newly there, did not even know how he get the contract. It came directly from the office of the president. So the office of the president is very key in the killing of the cops, and the government of the Gambia, by all standings, is very complicit in the killing of the cops, because we know Hussein Bojan did not do it. And if Hussein Bojan did not do it, why did the government lie to the teeth against the United Democratic Party? I'm not interested in the politics of these two entities, but the fact of the matter is that if UDP said, Pate Jallo, you are beating our people and we will revenge, and a Pate Jallo is killed, that is not coincidence. Whereas that is coincidence, the script that Sankare read is not just coincidence. That he was at the UDP court case. That means it's either it is prefabricated by the government or the police, to frame the United Democratic Party. So that means the police are complicit in the killing of its own men for political reasons. But the standing of it now is that they are going to be subpoenaed to court, because Jeng equally said that, Hussein Obojang said he acquired the gun from Casamas rebellion. He was in the rebellion before. We grew up with the dude. We know him from childhood to this day, and we can attest. And my entire community can attest that this dude has nothing to do with a rebellion.
But not only that, his testimony in court was that he's never owned a gun, never held a gun.
Exactly. So now, subpoenaing these people in court would actually not just, it's just like public shaming. That's how I would consider it. Because they will come to court and you will be asked, you said this dude is a rebel. What exactly is the point? But what would happen in my case?
It's not only that. Well, no, Karen.
What I think would happen is, because Sankare, in his so-called wisdom, decided to compel the police to write a rejoinder to say that everything Sankare said on West Coast Radio was said to him by the police. Because he knew within a space of time that everything he said was not right, that everything he said was a lie. And then he decided to say, I'm not owning up to this lie, because everything that I said here was said to me by the police. Right? So, and the police wrote a rejoinder like that. And when he subpoenaed to court, he will come with that document to say, the police told me everything I said is not my own statement. And the police did remove a statement to say that everything I said was said to me by them. But Jeng equally would say the same, that everything I said was said to me by the police. But the police DIG, who said that he used codes from, turntable, grid number, this and that, and then he went to, Dimbaya, and from Dimbaya to C4 until they got to Casamas, and an unknown person was handed over to them. But again, you said there was heavy telephone traffic in the boy's phone, but you get the guy's phone and then you formatted the phone. And the interesting thing about the phone is that the phone that the police said they were tracking was left in Bruford while this dude traveled with his simple phone. So what phone was the police tracking according to the DIG? So it's important that they are subpoenaed to court to come and answer. Because the phone you were tracking was dead, out of charge, and was left in Bruford. and this dude traveled to Casamas. And you were tracking him from one point to another until you arrived at a destination in Casamas, and an unknown person at the time was handed over to you. And just for us to be told in court that the phone you were tracking was left in Brufut, actually, did not actually go to Casamas. But the funny thing is the driver that claimed he took Ami from Yundum to Brufut and then to Brikama and from Brikama to Daslami claimed that he did all of this in 30 minutes. Some of the with the dawal nga Banjul, but can if in Kenya, we are not in Banjul. But even if it is that vehicle, there is no way you can take me from Yundum to Brufut and then to the border, to Brikama and then to the border in 30 minutes. But again, that tells you the fabricated script altogether. This guy said, while Ami and Usenu were talking, in Jola altogether, until they arrived in Brikama garage, he spoke to Ami in a language that he, the driver, understood, and he was telling Ami that he actually killed the cops. And again, he said he told Ami that one of the police officers told him not to use public transport, let him not get into vehicles in the garage. But imagine, some of us who knew Brikama, there is no way you go to Brikama garage around 8, 9, 10 to get a vehicle going to the border. When it is dark in Brikama, everybody stands on the highway. So getting into the garage and somebody's talking to the sister in a language you do not understand, and when it gets to the point of talking about the killing is when he spoke the language you understood. That doesn't make any sense. Again, but even whereas those people told or said something that you understood that they killed the cops, why did you continue driving them? Now, if they were trying to dive the police, where did this driver, which road did he use to get to Dar es Salaam? Again, you know that these people said they killed the cops, and you still did not drove them into, Brikama police station and said, I got the people who said they killed the cops, but then you actually drive them to safety. When they got to Jululum, he said a bike man picked them, but the bike man said he only picked this dude the next day in the afternoon. So how can I drop you at 11 in the night or midnight, all of a sudden the bike man to come to say I only picked this dude the afternoon of the next day? The fact is that Usenu left Brufut the next day in the afternoon, and he arrived in Casamas, and Mama, understanding the vulnerability of this condition, framed this dude to get $1 million. And of course, because he's one of these staunch haters of the United Democratic Party, and already, they want to frame these folks, and they connected. And first, when they said Usenu Bojang, they thought it's the Bojangs of Bojang Kunda and Brufut, whom they think are typical UDP supporters and they are typical Mandinkas. Because this ethnic characterization in our political system, we cannot shy away from talking about it. We got to say it. They thought it's a typical Mandinka from Brufut, Bojankunda, and they are the ones who are typical UDP, and they hate, the regime. And of course, yes, it is the UDP. Until after a few hours, they realized that this is a Jola Bojang, and then they connected him to what? He is a rebel. All of these things are ethnic characterizations that exist in the political divide of our country, and we got to say it. So now, for me, what is interesting is that everything that happened, why is the DPP against Sankare and the core to be subpoenaed? After all they said about this case. Now, legally, where does this take us to? Maybe I can give you a free ride around that. Let me take a pause and probably listen a little bit.
No, it's quite interesting, because I wanted you to give a brief synopsis of the case and the matter for people who are just watching. I know a few people who are watching who have been asking me what exactly is going on, what is this thing about, and I think you've just brilliantly captured these very salient moments in your expose of whatever it is that transpired. Now, of course, I will look at the legality of it. I'll look at the legal bits. So firstly, let's start with, just a recap of the prosecution's case.
Right.
So like you rightly mentioned, Usainu, even prior to the matter coming to court, we had the police making this a very sensational crime. It was sensational because it was the police, it was cops that were killed.
Yeah.
But it was sensationalized in the sense that we had periodic press releases where the police put themselves in a position of intelligence and knowledge that was within their grasp.
Right.
And I think that is where they shot themselves in the foot. It would have been okay for the police to give a press release, but then make it feel as if investigations were ongoing. But from the very onset of their press release, it showed that it was a watertight case where they had already obtained confession and that the police were on top of everything. So when the I think it's DG saw, I mean, I found that press release quite fascinating because that was what caught my entire, you know, imagination and attention. And I wrote at the time about it. And that was when he kept talking about coordinates. He delved into you know, some, you know, technological spree, really having the best time of everything. He was speaking on he was talking on telephone towers, he was talking on coordinates, he was talking how the, you know, talking about the phone being pinged on different strategic points. He even went into some, you know, some geographical, you know, analysis, trying to, you know, figuratively show the points and the coordinates traveling into Senegal and stuff. So these were very coincide and very detailed narrations of the movement of the then suspect or accused person.
Let me just say one thing here. Do you realize that at the time he was saying this, the suspect was still an unknown person? But how do you track the phone of an unknown person?
No, so that's what I'm saying. So whilst he was saying this, the press release, whilst this was ongoing, the suspect was typically unknown to the police.
Yes.
But then the police, they did say in that press release, because I listened to it actively, that they were working with their counterparts in Senegal. And for me, little details come out. Gambia, yes, is bordered by Senegal, but why Senegal? At that time, why Senegal? Now, the coordinates, like you've rightly mentioned, for the entire duration of the prosecution's case, we did not see any evidence that was led to prove the prosecution's case where these coordinates of these towers, of these phone calls, and I remembered him using the phrase very heavy traffic. I would not forget that.
Yeah.
Very heavy traffic. Now, you would have expected that this would form the basis of the prosecution's case. This did not happen. We did not see this in court.
Yeah.
Now, the actual phone, the actual mobile phone, which allegedly or supposedly was supposed to be a smartphone, of which we were being told about its coordinates, being, of course, pinged to different towers, suddenly was not in existence because this phone was kept in a cupboard or in a drawer in somebody's bedroom. What was being pinged? What was the coordinate that the DG was talking about? It is the most oxymoronic fallacy that I could ever imagine, because it was absolutely divergent, contrasting ideas that don't match, opposite ends.
Yeah.
Because a coordinate of phones, of a smartphone that was pinging from different towers, because if you understand mobile technology, the phone has to ping on the tower for you to be able to draft the coordinates. So what happens? So for example, when I'm sure this man watched a lot of movies, yeah. Because what happens when you watch police detectives, or you're going through cold case files and stuff like that, what happens is so your mobile phone is not good. So me wanting to talk to you, Omar, there's no wire, there's no electric cord, there's nothing that is linking my phone to your phone.
Right.
But there are towers, there are telephone towers all about. So, for example, I was driving from, let's say, Senegambia to Paradise Estate, and then there's a phone tower. I'm just imagining. I don't know, hypothetically.
Yeah, I got it.
You know, just hypothetically. So imagine there's a phone tower in turntable, located at the turntable. Now, if I receive a call, ordinarily in mobile phone technology, what would happen is my phone would ping on that tower, which is nearby. So if my phone pings on that tower and that is picked up, that is how you're able to draw the coordinates of my movement to tell that IML was at latitude 20 degrees
Okay.
at this particular point, and that is what would actually help you to pinpoint my accurate positioning.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, when we went to court, this vanished. We didn't see that. And the reason we didn't see that is because the mobile phone, all this while, that it was within the figment of imagination of somebody's head, was coordinating and plotting a heavy traffic call, was inside a drawer in somebody's house. So that cannot make it to the court, because that would have been a travesty.
But what I don't understand again, after DIG saying all of this, we expect this phone to be a key evidence element for the state. But what they did was they brought the phone from him. You know, they actually went with him to the house and picked the phone. They charged the phone and they took the phone to him where he was kept at the airport so that he opened all the patterns and unlocked the phone, which he did. And then this detective Ibuso went through the phone and saw all his conversation on that night about, from almost 8 p.m. all the way to midnight, which I have the screenshot of all those conversations because the person he was talking to in the UK sent out the screenshots that I was talking to this person. Now, when they realized that on this day, this person was not there, and also they connected the fact that DIG, so everything he said was not true because this phone did not go to Casamas, the police deliberately formatted this boy's phone.
No, we'll come to that. We'll come to
right.
the formatting of the phone. The point I'm trying to make is that the coordinates were non-existent.
That's right.
It didn't happen. The reason why we know it didn't happen is because evidence that was led in court demonstrated accurately that this man was brought into his house to identify the mobile phone that was later confiscated by the police. Now, this is the mobile phone. This is the one key piece of evidence that was being tracked by the police. So I don't know if you're seeing the nexus I'm trying to draw.
Of course.
And
Clear.
the nexus I'm trying to paint and to draw is the fact that this mobile phone was what warranted the heavy traffic.
Right.
And this mobile phone is what placed the alleged accused person at the crime scene.
Right.
It is what placed the alleged accused person in the journey going to Casamas.
Right.
This alleged mobile phone, which indicated the coordinates and the traffic, was what painted this guy coordinating with co-conspirators to be picked up at a mosque.
Right.
Now, these are the patterns. These are the investigations. These are what formed the basis of the arrest of this gentleman, even taking out the alleged confession.
Yeah.
Now, as it progresses, we got to realize that this gentleman cannot be pinpointed at that crime scene because the coordinates was from the figment of imagination from somebody else's mind. It didn't happen. It didn't occur. So the basis of the evidence, of the prosecution's evidence, is that nothing to plant the accused person in that location is available.
Yeah.
Because that piece of evidence fell flat. Now, because that piece of evidence fell flat, it would have been absolutely ludicrous to now tender that piece of evidence in court. So the mobile phone had to be formatted. The formatting of the phone, and I wrote about this if you can remember, that for me was the most shocking piece of whatever it was that the police did. Because the mobile phone from the press releases was the most crucial key evidence of the prosecution.
Right.
Now, I have never seen where a prosecution will be relying on the most substantial piece of evidence that is within the confines of the police, within their custody. But then that mobile phone was formatted. You don't factory reset your one greatest piece of evidence because that is what you rely on to nail your case. But it was not about nailing the case anymore. It was about covering the lies that has been told to the Gambian public. So you have two ends of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
One was trying to rely on this key piece of evidence to substantiate the pronouncement that you allegedly and originally made to the Gambian people, that you had a watertight key evidence, you had watertight what you call it, coordinates that planted the accused person at the scene of the crime.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden that doesn't exist. So rather than rely on the evidence to prosecute, you are cleaning the evidence to take care of the alleged public pronouncements that are lies. So that gave the police or the investigators a difficult job, because not only are they trying to prosecute and rely on the evidence, but the same evidence is what they're using to clean up the mess that has already been created.
Right.
So the phone had to be formatted. Now, if you realize when the phone was formatted, it was not the prosecution that tendered that mobile phone in court.
Yes.
And for me, these are the legalities we need to look at. The mobile phone, based on the police press release, based on the crux of their investigation, was the key piece of evidence that linked the accused person to the alleged crime scene. So you would naturally expect that this key piece of evidence would be tendered by the prosecution in support of their case.
Yeah.
But this was not what happened in Useinu's case. It was the defense. Am I correct, or am I missing
No,
it?
of course. The defense asked for
It
for
was
them
the
to bring the document.
defense that actually tendered this piece of evidence.
They actually compelled the court to force the police to bring everything they picked from Hussein.
And in fact, I was flabbergasted when the defense had to compel, because there was a decent, sober, robust argument between the defense and the prosecution in tendering that piece of evidence.
Yeah.
But that's the crucial piece of evidence that the state must rely on.
Yeah.
And for me, it was as if I was watching a movie from a sci-fi movie, because you expected the police to be so happy to tender that one crucial piece of evidence. But no, they were fighting against it. And the reason why they were fighting against it is because what they have told the Gambian public had fallen flat. So it was the prosecution that it was the defense that now tendered that key evidence. So it was on the defense. Okay? Now, it didn't stop at that. And the part, again, I got in where I made a public commentary where I stated, because the defense was making an application to have an expert to come in to open the phone.
Yeah.
And if you remember, I made a post where I wrote my commentary is probably that would have been a big flaw, because the burden of proof is on the prosecution to prove their case beyond a shadow of doubt, beyond all reasonable doubt. Now, I didn't quite understand why the defense would want to aid the prosecution in even opening the phone. The phone has been formatted. They claim they took the phone. They claim they opened the phone. They claim they had overwhelming piece of evidence in the phone. And suddenly the phone, which was in their custody, got to court and the phone is formatted, whilst Useinu was in custody, arrested and detained, and his rights curtailed. You saw the logic. And for me, that was why I thought there was no way that the defense should even get into the business of that phone.
And from the beginning, it was all seen as a plot, because when they arrested Useinu, the brother spoke to Kirfat, and he said, I was here with Hussein when this incident happened. And then we were both informed at the same time because somebody came with a phone, Junior, who showed
And
us
the
this
person, and
particular
he
thing
asked that, what is
on
this? And he
Western
asked, and
Gambia.
he was shown, yeah.
And he was shown. But when the guy said, unless if he because we were all here, they arrested and detained the brother for 3 days. Now it is this same brother who owns the Sioux that they actually brought in court, and the dude wore the Sioux. And
Yeah,
then
let's get to that. So
but
the phone had fallen flat. And then you go to court. You mystically try to hope that destiny and fate will side by you, and that you would bring these books to court and it would fit the accused person.
yeah.
And God has a way of playing with the human mind, because you would have expected that a smart and diligent prosecutor would have ensured that when that boots was confiscated and Usainu was in their custody, they would have ensured that he tried that boots to make sure that it fitted him perfectly. And if it did not fit, that was an evidence you would never bring into the courts, because it was fatal.
Yeah.
It was fatal. It was absolutely fatal. You bring again. You've floundered with your one piece of evidence, which is the mobile phone, and then you're relying on this other piece of evidence. It fell flat in open court because it did not fit.
The interesting thing is about the Sioux again, because this was during the rainy season, and we look at let's look at the environment in which this particular incident happened. Sukuta traffic light. This is a very it's a place of the public. It's not that it's an isolated place or it's somebody's house where you can say you found a particular Sioux tracks or whatever. But what happened in this particular location is that you have many people crisscrossing this area. All of a sudden, you said it is only the shoe that you found in Usain Bojang's house. That is basically, what you basically found in this particular location. How comes you just found just a single shoe track on this particular location and you claim that belongs to Usain Bojang? First, in serious investigations, if you get to a crime scene, what do? You barricade the area to avoid people coming through it. You actually, get the, the scene of the crime. Now, if you get the scene and you realize that this entire scene, there is only one shoe, footprints in there. Now, did they bring the shoe they picked from Usain Bojang's house to take a photo of the shoe track they found in this particular place, and of course to place it on it to see if it perfectly fit? Will they provide all of those things to the court? Probably no. But of course the simplest thing to do was, I got Usain, he's in custody. If you basically get the shoe from his house, the simple thing to do is to go and fit it on him. Now you did not fit it on him, all of a sudden you brought it to court. What is it? But the fact of the matter is that even when they picked the suit, the brother told them that this suit belongs to me, and they insisted. Why did the police insist? Because the people who were there claimed that the person who did the shooting was wearing a combat boot. And because they found a combat boot in Husseino's house, they claim that belongs to him. But there was nothing like, okay, this is basically, the footprints we find in this particular location, because that is not an isolated environment. This is a public environment, and there is no way you can just find a single shoe track on this particular location to claim it belongs to Husseino. Do they match? Where is the photo of the one they saw on the ground and took a photo of? And where is the shoe they actually got from Husseino's house? And let them show us the talons of these shoes, and let's basically look at them and see if these two really match. Did they do all of that? Probably they did not. And all of a sudden, you did not fit the shoe on the person. The police were not investigating. The police were covering up. And that is why they said the gun, they claimed in their press conference when they were asked, did you see the gun? They said, no, we never said we saw any gun. But meanwhile, this gun was picked on the day of the incident. Again, Detective Ibusau said when they went to pick this gun, he had to go and see somebody. He did not witness picking the gun because there was somebody of interest who knew something about the case from the watchman. But this watchman who wrestled down this gunman did not have people to come and help him grab this person. But of course, all of a sudden, somebody else appears who knew something about the case. So all of these things did not add up. But the funny question that the public keep asking is, where is the surviving lady? The surviving lady, while he was in the hospital bed, the police, because they are constables, they have just finished training, in their group, whenever one of them is sick, they put money together, and then one of their senior men or a couple of them would be arranged to come and give you, like that's normal, social, whatever, in the Gambia. Now, they put money together to go and see this particular person in hospital. The police denied them access. The police denying the police access to their classmate who got shot like that. Why? Again, when this lady came to court to testify, she said, I don't know Usenu. I have never seen him. I have never met him. We had no confrontation with any person. I only had gunshots and I found myself in the hospital. I saw his photos like any other Gambian on people's phones and also on the internet. But with all this information, even the information prior to going to court, the state has established that this dude has nothing to do with this. But they were fabricating everything from one point to another. If the state is not complicit, where were they involved in fabricating all of these stories? Again, they told us that when they got Hussein, the independent witness, was somebody who claimed that he came to anti-crime because there is a person who has a vehicular problem that they went there to settle those vehicle disputes. But anti-crime is not a police station where they call people to come and serve as witnesses or whatsoever. And then to say that he arrived at anti-crime around midnight and then he entered anti-crime through the back gate. This is a security installation. Who enters the security installation through a back gate without being processed in? But who actually get access to anti-crime at midnight to come and talk about a particular case? Is anti-crime a police station? So all of those things are just fabricated scripts that the government came up with. And again, whenever they are picking this independent witness to go and question Hussein Obojan, he's been picked by the detective himself. So the detective drives to the independent witness, pick the independent witness, drive him all the way to the airport to ask this boy questions that do not make any sense. And on top of it, he realized in the phone that there is nothing incriminating, and the police decided to format the phone that should have served as the key evidence for the prosecution. But of course, the incriminating audio on the basis of which they arrested this dude should have served as a key evidence for the prosecution. They said it is lost. The gun that should have served as a key evidence through a DNA test, they said it cannot be subjected to DNA. So you realize that, chronologically, the state have only been hiding one thing or another from the beginning of the case all the way to the end, all the way to this day. That is why the DPP said, why should these people be subpoenaed? There is enough reason for the court to progress without inviting those people, because they do not want them to be publicly shamed and the government to be put in bad light, because the government in one way or another knew something about the killing of the cops. And I take full responsibility for saying that the government of the Gambia in one way or another knows who killed the cops, and they did so to frame the United Democratic Party with the intention to burn the political party and to put some people in jail, including some people that I know and I defended prior, and some of them are now bedfellows to the government. And that includes Momodu Sabali, Bayo Sonko, and other people who were claiming that Pate Jallo, we will, avenge what you're doing to our people, and another Pate Jallo to be killed cannot be a coincidence. The other two people, Sang and the other lady are more or less, victims of, people who were just stationed there with Pate. But Pate was a target simply because his name is Pate. That is his only crime, because his name is Pate Jallo, and they cannot go and kill the deputy inspector, how do they call him? The AIG Pate Jallo, who is a senior person in the police. They had to go and look for a similar name, because that is the name the United Democratic Party has been complaining about. So in politics, fan la aga fini, that people can criminally connive within government and the police force to kill police officers simply because somebody said that, oh yeah, Melville Yama definitely, I will revenge, and all of a sudden the next day a Melville is killed, and you want to tell me that's a coincidence? At the same time, the head of the police made himself travel outside, and then his deputy lied to the entire Gambian people, and the government up till date, knowing very well that this dude was lying to the teeth, did nothing about it. And even within the police force, a chunk of them knew very well that the government, in one way or another, and the people within their security apparatus knew something about the killing of the cops. Now that they are subpoenaed to court, what do we expect? Come on.
So basically, I think it was a brilliant move by senior counsel, Lamin Darboe.
Yep.
But we need to understand there are two purposes for this move. One, it's got to do with the defense, because the defense has, so basically, lawyer Lamin Darboe was relying on section 117 of the CPC, that is the Criminal Procedure Code.
Yeah.
And that basically, to paraphrase, just states that the defense can call any witness, the court can invite any witness, any credible witness that has got within their purview facts of that case, and that witness can be compelled by the court to appear.
Yeah.
So when you subpoena an individual to come, it is the force of law. And that is why if you look at the ruling of Justice Jaije, it did mention that you're being commanded in the name of the Republic to appear. And if you don't, yes, if you don't appear, it amounts to contempt of court.
Yeah.
So it is an order of the court that you must appear. Now, let's get into the mind of Lamin J Darboe.
Right.
Now, two things here that is at play. Now, you have a criminal case that's ongoing, but what you also have is that this case has been politicized, and there has been a public branding of who Usaino is.
Yep.
Now, not everyone is following this case like you and I. So even where Usaino is declared an innocent man, there is a public perception that is out there by that negative and public branding, by that interview on West Coast Radio, that is still there.
Right.
This interview was granted by very senior government officials that make up and are part of the state apparatus. So when the government spokesperson spoke in governance issue, administratively, he spoke on behalf of the state and on behalf of the government.
Of course.
Because the government spokesperson should only be in a position to utter such strong statements when he has got factual evidences, has got solid intel, and is relying on solid information to come out into the public and make these pronouncements.
And at some point, he was making reference to what the president told him that, okay, the president said I should say that.
So not only that, but you can tell that there was what you call in law a meeting of the mind. So not only was Sankare speaking as a government person, but Sankare was also drawing inference from the president to say that I and the president discussed, I and the president spoke. When I speak, I'm speaking with the blessings of the president. And when the government person, spokesperson speaks in conjunction with the president, that is a government statement. That is policy. That is what the government believes at the time. Now, what lawyer Lamin J Darboe is trying to do is to bring these government officials, because they have made public statements. And I wrote an article a few days ago where I was talking, because somebody made a comment on my post to say that, oh, Mel, you can't comment, you can't say something that would be prejudicial to the case. And I wrote a full article trying to explain the rationale for having people and how it evolved from common law England to prevent people from actually speaking on matters that are sub judice, which means basically that are matters that are before the courts. Yeah. Now, if you look at the law, it does not say that anybody or nobody can speak on issues, but people that are connected to the case that can make the case become prejudicial to one party. Now, who is best in position to make this matter or tend to affect the outcome of this matter, or even tend to in a subtle way? Sorry, I'm getting distracted because my phone is being charged and the thing is falling off. Okay. Yeah. In a sort of way, to actually influence the case. That is the state. This case is being prosecuted by the state. Abi? And the government, through Ibrahim Sankare, has made this bold pronouncement that are still out there. Now, what lawyer Lamin J Darboe is trying to do is to bring a senior government spokesperson and rubbish their statement and give it the force of law. Because this will form part of the basis of the court case. And this will become public statement. And this will go into our law reports. It will be reported upon. It will be there from generation to generation. And it's teaching in a very subtle way public officials to be guarded in their statements, especially when it is a matter of criminal nature. So Ibrahim Sankare will come to court. His statements will be put before him. As government spokesperson, he has two options. One is to rely that he was informed by Intel, by the police. But what lawyer Lamin J Darboe would do on the cross-examination is to rubbish that intel. He will reduce that intel to zero, and trust me, nothing will give me greater pleasure than to watch lawyer Lamin Darboe cross-examine Ibrahim Sankare in that courtroom.
Well, when the court was on this morning and they had to go on a break, I was at work and I saw a call. I was like, I'm so busy, but I need to pick this call because I know the matter was before the court. And when this person told me, you know what, this is what is happening. I think for the rest of today, I'm just smiling because this is something I've been looking forward to. And now it is before the court. And I'm hoping that the government and its entire machinery watches these things as it gets on.
And not only that, let's look at the clever way that, you see, his application was not done formally. He did not come formally.
Yes.
Because if he had made the application formally, the other side would have already been informed of his intention.
Yep.
So it was an oral application that was informally made in court. Now the defense, the prosecution, was relying on the fact that the court would rule that he should come formally. And that would have given them time to respond fittingly. But the courts did not entertain that. And for me, out of all of this, that was what I saw, the direction of the courts. Because if you look at the ruling and if you delve substantively into the ruling, the reasoning behind the ruling was that the guy was already in custody and that his freedom was at stake and that there was no need to continue to prolong his detention whilst the matter is being determined. That was very crucial. And if you have studied Ibrahim Jaite, Justice Ibrahim Jaite, in his deliberations when it comes to his ruling, I was expecting that Ibrahim Jaite would ask them to come formally. So I saw it was a complete, what's the word? He departed completely from his usual ways where he would ask the court. I've seen instances where other individuals were in custody and he would still ask the courts to come out and formally. We saw that in the Bob what's the name, Bob Ketter's wife, yeah, was he the one that was before Justice Jaite?
I don't even know. I don't follow those people's case. This is the only case I follow in the Gambia's courts, bro.
Yeah, but I don't know, but I've seen no, I don't think it was him, but I've seen other instances where he asked the court to come formally, but he didn't do that. So right there and then he asked that, he took a brief time to rule on the matter. So that was quite interesting. And if you look at the defense to that application of the prosecution, was that these individuals did not form part of the investigation. Okay, that was key. But then Ellis was so clever to cite case law and authority where Justice Asenjalo had given an opinion that the defense can call any person under the sun that it believes can aid in proving the innocence of the accused person and in aiding their case. And it is only the prosecution's case that they cannot call witnesses if the witnesses had not formed part of the investigation.
Yep.
So you see the distinction.
Yep.
So the defense can call anyone in aid of their case, but the prosecution cannot do that. And the objection of the prosecution was overruled by Justice Jaite because Ellis was able to cite the authority.
You keep referring to J Darboe as Ellis.
I'm so
You're
used to
so
calling
much
Ellis.
into
So
Ellis.
LJ.
Right.
Okay. And now what is going to happen is these people are going to appear. And for me, I know obviously that any smart or logical way to go about this is for Sankara to say that I was briefed by intelligence.
But that's why he already showed us how he's going to deal with it. Because when the incident happened,
but what is going to happen again, which I think would happen, dependent on the path that LJ will take, is that Sankara had already covered his backside by getting the police to issue a press release to say that everything that Sankara said on West Coast Radio was given to him by the police.
Right.
So now what we're going to watch come out is, would LJ call the police?
No, the DIG Saul was the one in charge at the time, so he's part of the people called.
So DIG was part of the people called.
DIG, yes, it's DIG.
Well, DIG is the gentleman that was talking about the coordinates.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But he's the one who informed Sankara of everything about the incident. Because at the time,
that is what. But we don't know that. That is what we're hoping. So this is what is going to come out. DG never said he informed Sankara. So what we're going to see in court now is who informed Sankara.
You know what happened? What happened is that when Sankara spoke and he said he was the guy in hoodie, the UDP came out, and even the guy in hoodie came out to say, I am the guy in hoodie.
I am the guy, yes.
So already the public has made an opinion that Sankara, what you are saying is a lie. Can you just stop that? What you're saying is a lie. So that is why Sankara told the police. I think Sankara wrote that, press statement, because when Sankara writes and when the police writes, you can basically tell the difference. Sankara wrote that particular statement.
Yeah, but then that would be immaterial for the police.
Exactly, that would be
because the fact is
of the document.
The police took ownership of the document, and as far as we are concerned, that document emanated from the police.
And professionally, when the police investigate, they direct the communication to their leadership. At that time, the IG was away. The only person who was actually briefing government about the case was the DIG. It's not the junior officers who were investigating.
I just don't want to. I don't want to predict because you don't know. They can come out and say it wasn't the DIG.
Who was it then?
It could be the panel of investigations. Was the DIG part of the panel of investigation?
The panel was reporting to the DIG. DIG was leaving his office and staying the whole day.
Yes, but that is administratively.
And it was DIG who was going to the office of the president to brief them. These are information that are very open and well known to people. Maybe it's not what is said there, but evidently what Sankara would do, and that is why he did not pinpoint specifically to the investigators. He said this is basically, and then he said he spoke to, DIG So, and also DIG So had put in money for the victims. So all the intel they were getting at the time were all coming from DIG So, and DIG So also came out in their public appearance to mention that he was the guy in hoodie.
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is legally, it is not DIG So that will be, because that police presser was from the Gambia Police first, and that the Inspector General of Police is the authority that would be held responsible for that statement. That's
But
the point I'm trying to make.
you know why they're actually subpoenaing DIG specifically? Because of his own utterances in that press statement.
In the press release. That's what I wanted to get clear for
At
the
the end of
benefit
the day,
of the audience.
even the entire police force, could actually be subpoenaed, and the IG. But then the IG now there was not there at the time.
Yeah, but it will be immaterial.
So at the end of the day, either they will go and pick, Sanyang or whatever, but Sanyang never said anything. He pretentiously said he traveled just to ensure that this assignment is executed in his absence, which I believe in. Because there is no way, this guy can pretend that, oh yeah, he traveled and he stationed a Pate Jallo there for a Pate Jallo to be killed, for the police to come up with this fabricated script. But I agree with you entirely. He is going to be questioned on the basis of what he said. The police is not DIG so.
It's not DIG so. Can never be.
The institution will take responsibility.
The institution would have to take responsibility for
whatever
that
they would have
statement.
told, Sankare. And of course, the institution know the person who actually told Sankare everything that Sankare said. And Sankare will try to excuse himself. And he did so from the beginning when people came out to attack him to say everything you are saying is a lie because this guy does not work for any political party and does not work in Brikama area.
But is it remotely possible? This is just I'm just throwing this out there. Is it remotely possible that Sankare, the president, were briefed by the police?
There was a security council briefing.
No. Let me finish. All the security council, is it possible? Is it remotely possible that these people were briefed by the police without them being part of or aware of the underlying plot? Is it possible? It's a question I'm posing to you.
I don't think so. Somebody said to me, okay, it's possible that they plot, but maybe the president did not know. I said, you are either a supporter of the president, but you cannot tell me all of this happened and the president does not know. Do you know that Mama Jabi's telephone number is actually registered in the name of the president's nephew? The phone that Mama said he removed the SIM card, Mama Jabi's SIM card was registered at Africell in the name of the president's nephew. So Mama is not just connected to NPP, it's connected to the Force family as an individual. So again, let's put Mama aside. Even
but Mama's bit is circumstantial because Mama's bit is circumstantial because if Mama did not know,
he did not know.
Yeah, Mama could not have known that she would have met an Usainu who would come before her, with an issue. That is not humanly possible.
Exactly. But the point now I'm trying to make is many people were killed in the Gambia, and the government of the Gambia never came up with a 1 million bounty. And people are still being killed in the Gambia, and they don't come up with a bounty of 1 million.
So you see that bit. The reason why I asked the question, I'm not sure you're getting the gist, is because I want us to analyze the nexus between the occurrences surrounding the state and the sort of, what's the right word to say? I'm trying to choose my words very wisely. Now, the bounty was quite critical. But then there was something there was something for me that didn't add up. And that is, in such a gruesome murder, you would have expected that these individuals would not be hurriedly buried in the way and manner they were buried.
Certainly.
Because even though a post-mortem was done, the post-mortem could have been inconclusive at that point.
And do you know how many times I got calls from even police officers within the system that would see parents of these persons crisscrossing the police headquarters and probably, offices of government officials?
Now, let me give you. I like to do a comparative analysis of things. Do you know Solo Sanding? Before he was buried, I think they actually had to beg that these bodies should be released by the state. And then that was a foregone conclusion of what happened.
Yeah.
We have real-time confession done on the oath. But I've been wondering why These police officers were buried within 48 hours after they died. It was quick. Or maybe not 48, 72 hours, but it wasn't long.
That's right.
And again, the bit about the bounty, the bit about Ibrahim Sankare, the bit about Sankare saying that he spoke to the president and all that, it gives it a different picture.
And you know, the president equally said that was an act of terror. It was meant to scare his government. It was meant to intimidate the police. So who were at loggerhead with the police? Who were telling the police that what you are doing is not right?
The United Democratic Party.
So if the president is making such statements, what is he inferring to? He is just more or less, you know, trying to re-echo everything that Sankare told us.
But it is also possible. It is also possible because I have some sort of knowledge of certain occurrences in, I mean, the former regime, where people would be so, they would feel that they're so indebted to the sitting government that they make decisions on behalf of government to orchestrate things to go in a particular direction. So, for example, if you look at all the TRRC testimonies, most of them would now tell you that, oh, we have, you know, orders from the top. But you know, if you follow those testimonies, you would realize that some of these orders were done by General Sol Baji without even going to the top. So at some point, if you study Roman governance and politics, you have people, you know, Omar, that would make decisions on your behalf to protect you. You know that.
That's right.
They don't necessarily have to come. Okay, of course. I mean, they're hearing UDP is saying this, UDP is doing that. They hear the Party Jalo, and somebody somewhere powerful enough, close nexus to the president, having such allegiance to the president, but being in a position where maybe the continued presence of the president and the extinction of the UDP is actually advantageous to them, can make on their own accord such a plot and feed the president with factual intelligence. Like, for example, you mentioned that they were briefed. Now, let's look at it from another direction. If they were part of the plot, why must they be briefed?
But again, those are formalities. Why did the presidency?
I'm just
no, but
throwing
let me finish
things
this.
around.
Do you also understand that it was the presidency that called the press conference to put an immediate stop to it at the time it was being held?
No, say that again. I don't get that. Say that again.
A call came from Office of the President while the police and the security advisor and the Minister of Interior were having their press conference to immediately put a stop to the press conference because they were already exposing governments. So if government knows nothing about it, why did the government stop them from?
But then that would support my premise.
Exactly.
Because if the government was actually complicit and part of everything, they wouldn't have stopped the press release.
So do you think the police would have also done this out of their own accord?
I'm not saying anything, you know, but I'm just saying based on what we saw on the TRRC.
But again, even
things can happen.
After all of these things happening and the president knowing fully well that everything DIG so said isn't true, he still gave him, you know, a new contract.
Because you need a DIG so to be in there to continue the path, the trajectory.
So then the presidency likes
No, you're not getting my point. I'm not holding brief for the presidency.
I agree with you that they might not.
I'm just saying that. I'm just saying that people, Africans, we are very capable of impressing our godfathers.
Of course, people are very capable.
You know, people. I'm telling you this. I mean, I have some sort of knowledge of people making decisions to say, you know what, I will do away. I mean, somebody can say, you know what, I will get UDP off. I have a plot that can do away with UDP. If for example, Usenu, and like I say, I always liken this to a Bob Keita issue. If you didn't have that public support, where public perception is not blinded by political statements, it is not blinded by political bickering. Imagine if the entire country had bought into the idea that this was a UDP-sponsored crime. That would have occasioned the banning of the UDP.
Certainly, yes.
And if that had happened, UDP would not be in existence. What we would be talking now is UDP fighting in the courts to prove their innocence.
Right.
So, yes, like you're analyzing, it's possible, but I also think that for you to be part of a plot in depth, Sankare would not have come out at that moment to say that. Because you remember when Sankare came out, what happened? The conversation shifted because Sankare came out on Coffee Time and everybody was listening to Sankare. And suddenly the UDP came out with a very strong rebuttal. But it did not stop at the UDP. What broke Sankare's testimony was the individual that actually came out to say, I was the one in that hoodie. I was the one. This is me. Now, immediately, there was an outpour against Sankare. And quickly, like you rightfully said, we are imagining, that was drafted. It was like, hey, look, you briefed me.
Take responsibility of all the lies.
No. And I'm telling you, Sankare must have the backing of the president for that. Sankare cannot just go to the police and say, take responsibility, huh?
You think so?
How can Sankare, what authority that the Sankare has as government spokesperson to write a briefing for the entire Gambia police force to take ownership of his pronouncements, public pronouncements on West Coast?
But you know, Sankare can directly
but
ask
remember,
the police.
no, Omar, no, I vehemently disagree because Sankare had already stated that he was working in conjunction with the president.
And the police.
No. Forget, remove the police as a third party. Okay. We remove the police as a third party. When Sankare spoke in West Coast, he spoke on behalf of him, and he gave you a picture and a state of mind of the president.
Yep.
So when Sankare's testimony interview was attacked and it fell flat, it was not only Sankare. It was Sankare and the position of the president.
Yes.
Okay? We've never seen a rebuttal so speedily appear on social media. The police took complete ownership that Sankare was briefed. If Sankare was briefed, the president was briefed.
That's right.
If the president was briefed, Sankare is saying, the error I made on the show, the president also is part of that because he was briefed.
Yeah.
So it could be that, yes, DG Sow, at this point, you can't go. You've created a mess. So, for example, what if DG Sow had gone now? On what authority would DG Sow be compelled to appear? On the authority of the police?
DIG Sow could have been removed and prosecuted for giving false information.
No. That is far removed. That is far. We're talking about
DIG and continuing to pay him with tax.
No. Listen. I'm giving you we're talking about the case. Those things are like third party stuff. They're not.
But they could bring him as in his capacity as the former DIG who would have said things, things like that at the time he was serving the regime.
No. You see, they could have.
Yes.
They could have, but authoritatively, if DG Sow had resigned, DG Sir would not make part of the police pronouncements. You can only call DG Sir as DG Sir ex-police officer on the investigation to probably speak on certain issues. But the police, the force continues.
No,
So
but he could be
DG Sir
called
was never
on the basis of
speaking.
his own utterances.
No, but his own utterances, we need to understand this. If you look at public pronouncement, that is why we said that certain public individuals, you cannot divorce your utterances from your individual person.
All right.
So DG Sir, you could hold him onto some of his utterances, but the point is, most of those utterances were done on the basis of him being a police officer.
But resigning from the police officer or no longer working from the, for the police does not really kind of, exempt you from answering questions relating to things you would have done while you were serving as a police officer.
No, I never said that, but I never said there was an exemption.
So
what I'm saying
the system
is,
could have fired him if they were serious.
No, but how
case.
would the no? But that doesn't make sense. How would the system fire him when it is the same system that's prosecuting? It doesn't make sense. Fire him on the basis of what?
That is what I'm telling you. Then the presidency and everybody within know something about the case.
No, I have not said they don't know. You're not getting me.
No,
I'm not saying they don't know.
It's also possible that somebody could just come in trying to please the leadership.
But then they got into it.
Of course, exactly.
That's the point I'm trying to make.
Agreement.
The point I'm trying to make is they got into it.
Yeah.
So, for example, I don't think the president made that offer of a bounty on his own accord.
Yeah.
Somebody just made a very interesting comment. He said Sankara said he complained to the president, and the president called the police to retract.
Oh. Okay.
So you see my point.
Interesting.
So what Sankara could have felt at that time was the police embarrassed him by giving him wrong information.
Exactly.
Because when Sankara went on West Coast Radio, Sankara was solid. He believed that what he was saying was gospel.
Yep.
And through typical Sankara style, he captured it and made it his own. So when Sankara was speaking, you would think that Sankara was there. He said overwhelming evidences. Rebel.
And the police are very happy.
And the police are very happy.
He's cooperating.
So he made it his own.
He's cooperating, exceptionally cooperating.
Exceptionally cooperating. So that's the point I'm trying to make. But in all of these things, the most important of it all is that two innocent men have lost their lives.
Yeah.
But what we may not know now is that the culprits are out there having a field day.
Yeah.
Whilst an innocent man is behind bars and fighting for his innocence.
Yeah. That's right.
But like I always say, good things do happen to bad people.
Right.
But the truth is, in this case, and like I've said it before, if Usainu Bojang is found guilty, yeah, that would be me done with anything Gambia.
It's just future impossible tense. Best bu ñoo wax ne comme aussi ne mo rey police ana kon bu de bes bobu deka bobu non will cease to have a president. Why yo na ñun dañ dof. But no, we basically one can predict the direction of the case. We already know what the facts are. The fact is Usainu has nothing to do with this case, but the question remains who killed the cops. And what I do not understand.
Okay, no, Omar. I was forgetting this very crucial point. At this stage, I honestly believe the state should withdraw. That's what I believe. They should withdraw.
Okay, so they can withdraw at this stage.
They should file a nulli. Why can't they? They can at every stage of the case.
To avoid Sankari and other people from coming?
It would be a monumental disgrace. I'm telling you.
I do not know it. Koroi. Fog you testify, bro. Mandi ayaga harboy. Yo bul. I'm also hearing the bulkos hobindi.
No. I think they should. I think in the interest of justice, even where, because you see, let me tell you something. I think it would be worse. I honestly think it would be worse for the courts to find Usainu not guilty. Because if the state can file a nollie, just like they did in the Bob Keita case, it would save them in a way that some people would continue to say, maybe mom la won, maybe do mom. I don't know if you get what I mean.
I got the point.
But you see, if the case proceeds to its logical and legal end, then it would have been determined that indeed this man is innocent.
And you think if they actually file a nollie, we will not actually sue them to court for it again?
Yeah, of course, but even if they don't file a nollie,
we'll still get to the end of it. Any way, through the right or through the left or through the back door, we will get to the end of this matter. That is just it. You cannot pick a lactating mother.
But I don't think there's anything. I don't think anything is catered in our laws for such. Do you know that?
That you cannot go to court for being put in prison on a murder case to being accused by the state.
It's not provided for in our laws.
That you cannot take the state to court for allegations.
You can take the state, but there's no allocation for any sort of reparation when it comes to that.
We can go to ECOWAS court.
That's what I found out.
Yeah, we can go to the ECOWAS court. We can go to other courts in other.
Yeah, you can, but I don't think there is. It's not there. From what I was told, I don't know how true. That is why, for example, Bob Keita couldn't have gone to court to ask for anything for the 3 years that he was kept. I will try to ascertain that, but I believe this is what
we will go to a different court elsewhere, and we will actually seek international representation to ensure that the government of the Gambia pays for this, and we will. We are just waiting for this case to get to a certain state, and we will start writing to the United Nations and international organizations about the complicity and the criminality of the government of the Gambia. We are not taking this thing loosely, because from the beginning we are told these people, this dude has nothing to do with this, and the government and its entire machinery came out to lie to the teeth against a very young man who had nothing to do with government and governance, has nothing to do with politics, including his lactating sister who was just giving birth to a little baby, and he's been in jail for almost 2 years, and her little child is right at home for nothing that she knew anything about. And then all of a sudden the government could just come out and say, oh no, don't bring Sankari and other people who lied to the teeth against a young man who had done nothing to them, and expect that is justice and that is democracy. No, at some point there must be justice either in the Gambia or elsewhere. Injustice cannot be something that we breed in our country. And this is a regime that came to say that Jammeh was doing all these atrocities, bad and terrible things to Gambian people. And then you came in to make sure that there is a democracy and then people have, the life and their liberties respected. All of a sudden, you can kill 2 serving police officers in their line of duty simply because one's name is Pate Jallo, and because UDP was complaining about a Pate Jallo, and you had to kill a Pate Jallo for no good reason, simply to satisfy your political egos. Because the president said that, because the president clearly told us that UDP, so he felt that the UDP was so much of a problem to him that Sabali and other people making statements against the police for brutalizing their people, they went ahead to kill the name, a similar name to the one that the UDP was complaining about. All of that cannot be coincidence. Sankare coming out and completely pointing fingers at the UDP to say this guy works at Brikama Area Council, he was at the UDP court case here and there. We will file this within the Gambian courts. If they cannot actually do anything about it, we will go into, but we will make sure that the government of the Gambia is completely stained in this case, and which is already obvious to every Gambian.
It's already obvious.
What we did successfully is that in the beginning, there was nobody to speak for this dude. But growing up with somebody that I know, we made sure that every time the government comes out to say something about this dude, we come out to dispel everything. And we did that successfully, because everything they came out to allege this dude, we successfully made people understand that that is not true. This is the true picture of it. And everything they fabricated in court, we made sure that we bring in those analyses to compare and give those contrasting views, that the people and the public understand that these are just fabrications and manipulations and deceit by the regime in place. And evidently, those things are overwhelmingly coming to light, and every Gambian understood that Usain Bojang had no hand in the killing of the cops. And of course, all hands are now pointing at the government. What exactly do you know about the killing of the cops? Now, subpoenaing these people to court is enough satisfaction for me. But at the end of the day, we will ensure that the international community and the world at large know that the government of the Gambia, in one way or another, was complicit in the killing of the cops. And it was done primarily to ban the United Democratic Party. When they failed in that quest, they turned to somebody who had no hand in it and then alleged him and did everything humanly possible to ensure that they incarcerate him, because people are so used to false, allegations against people, and of course prosecuting them on false pretense, and of course incarcerating them on such false allegations, because they have mercenary judges and they've got people who probably in one way or another come and serve as DPPs who would have been nothing in their own countries, but they would serve the master in our own countries. But it's good that we have Justice Jayte. Sometimes I'm not, the best friend of that person, because sometimes I feel that he's one way or another this and that. But those are just my personal, maybe prejudicial positions. But here is a man who is trying to ensure that justice is actually served in the case that a Gambian against people who are supposed to defend the truth and justice in our country are the ones who are turning around and masterminding plots against their own citizens who they should be protecting. Because I do not understand on the basis of what that the government of the Gambia will format Usain Bojang's phone. I don't understand on what basis the Gambia police force, who is expected to basically defend every citizen of that country, will come out to fabricate stories against its own citizen to say we were, tracking a phone that does not even exist in the first place. Again, why would the police turn around and say, okay, this is his boot and he wore it to actually kill the cops just for the boot not to fit in court? Again, why will the vehicle that was said to be the owner, being the killer, belong to a police officer who has a gun? Is this person not a potential suspect? All of a sudden, it's the police officer's vehicle at the midst of the scene, and again, 3 military officers were the one, pursuing the gunman. People who are gun experts were the witnesses of the state, who are potential perpetrators of this particular crime. And of course, we will not shy away from it. They did it for political reason, and now it is coming back to haunt them. And we will ensure that every Gambian, my own wish is to see this government crumbling to its knees, because they are not fit for any good. These are people who characterize people on negative ethnicity. They feed on deceit and negative ethnicity. They feed on lies and propaganda. All they intended to do was to say UDP is violent. You see, they killed the cops. And that is why the president came out to give a statement like that, to say they want to intimidate my government. They want to intimidate the police. But the police brutalizing the United Democratic Party militants was nothing to him. He does not care about that. And all of a sudden, they came out to criminally connive to kill young officers who would have just joined the force to help their families, who had no hand in whatsoever politics. They wore the uniform in the interest of our country to serve our people, just to be killed in their line of duty for no good reason. And then we want the government to go and probably say, oh, we are filing a nully or whatsoever. That should be something that the entire Gambian people should come out and say, you know what, tell us the truth, or whatever got to happen, let it happen. Well, we cannot normalize people killing our people and government coming and killing and going, because these people killed 3 people in Faraba. When I listen to my Fati, sometimes he's your friend and sometimes he's not, but I don't want him to be my friend ever, because that guy is not honest. He has been very dishonest to you personally, dishonest to the Gambian people. They kill people in Fonya, and he said, obey the law or be consumed by the law. The same person said everything that Jammeh did were wrong and they were going to establish justice. And now he's telling us that, oh no, let us focus on reparations, because they know this government in one way or another is tainted with the blood of Gambians. We cannot normalize governments coming and killing our people and just going and feel that, oh no, we got to do reparations. No. There should be truth, accountability, and justice. And that is what I've seen Justice Jayte doing. And, I commend the guy for actually taking the bold step to subpoena people in high authority in the Gambia to appear in court, including the National Security Advisor, the Deputy Inspector General of Police, and of course the government spokesperson. These are high caliber personalities when it comes to our governance system. So it's good that they are putting them to test, to come and tell people what all that they've said. And everything they've said is known to every Gambian that it's a falsified fabrication, a script that was prepared prior to the incident, and it was solely done to ban the United Democratic Party. Kuko wax nga dega, kuko waxut nag na ngay baña wax dega rek.
Yeah, but that was the fact. That was the whole idea of that interview on West Coast Radio, was to taint the UDP.
And
and it fell flat.
I have a friend who was working at the time. He now lives in Italy or Germany, who was working at the prison police. He said when the incident happened, there were people there who were celebrating, saying UDP, legality and England.
Really?
Yeah, now we got them. Now we got them. So they, when Peter Gomez said that there are a scope, couple of people who were celebrating in this, even within the NPP, they were celebrating that now we got the UDP. We will finish them now. So they cannot claim that it was the UDP celebrating the killing of the cops. It's a, those are just fabricated scripts. Do dega.
Yeah, that
But
wasn't true.
I have
That
nothing.
wasn't
I'm
true.
not a member of the UDP. I have nothing to do with this partisan politics here and there. Why dega? Sunko gise and what dega?
No, but
The
that's
fact
the
of the
fact,
matter,
though.
people were celebrating that. Okay, UDP. Now we got them. They were not even, sorry, that sympathetic that 2 officers in their line of duty were killed. But what they were celebrating is that, oh no, because their government had connected it to the UDP, and it's now like, oh yeah, we got the UDP, so we'll make sure that they don't exist no more. But Barrow's government poses an existential threat to the United Democratic Party, and they have shown it in every way possible, and they have done it in every way possible. And that is why I told people like Sabali, when people inject hate on you to the point that they cannot succeed, they come with fake love. Well, ñun ñëpp gis nañ loolu fii. Kula bañ ba buga laa rey mu xam ne lii, hate does not get me the results, they come with fake love. But all of that, yeah, he hates them. He did all the bad things to them. He did not see it working. He brings them as minister just to be able to get them. And of course, when you are done. This government is not good. Bechek is not good. Singon is not good in the night. In as much as one would have voted for them here and there, I will never wish to have a government like that could incarcerate my brother for 2 good years, get my lactating sister for 2 good years without any remorse, when they knew very well that what they are doing is wrong. Justice might not be today, but someday
it will
this
come.
government will be
That's always my belief. That's always my belief. It doesn't matter how long it takes. It will come.
You don't need to go. I'll just quickly attend to this girl for a minute, and I'll be.
Yeah, no. That's perfect. I think what we started at 10. It's 12, 17 past midnight now. That's 2 hours, 17 minutes. I think we've really exhausted everything we could say about this. But the truth is, it's going to be on the 16th. 16th, I think Monday the 16th. It's going to be a very exciting encounter. And I don't know. But it's gonna be a masterpiece, a class act to have L.J. cross-examine Ibrahim Sankare and the police chief security advisor and the DIG, the Deputy Inspector General. For Sankare, I think it's not going to be that bad, because I'm sure overwhelmingly he's going to rely on the intelligence, intel that he got from the police, and we know that is exactly what's going to happen, because the police had already, they'd already given out, they made a press release, a statement where they accepted responsibility for everything. So basically, this is it. I think we've been here for over 2 hours, and I think we'll wrap it up now, and then take it on. Omar? Yeah, I was just saying, I think we've been here for 2 hours, 20 minutes now.
Yeah, man, it's been some time now, so probably we can do the quotes here. Huh?
But definitely, we're gonna come on Monday evening. They're supposed to appear in court on Monday, the 16th. Am I right?
Of course. Let's see how that big Monday is going to bring. As well, a lot of other things are happening in Gambia. The monopolies around cement and cement supply. Cement is not available.
Yeah.
And I'm from the Gambia. I'm Benabis. Will might not be available. Then
Well,
people know that
I'm
we don't have
hoping all of these issues we could tackle it when I happen to meet face to face with Dr. Ismail Assise. The invitation, he threw out the invitation, the challenge. I accepted, but I'm yet to have a confirmation of my acceptance.
You know, is my guy. He used to be my co-worker. So I try to limit so much I say about, for personal relations. But when it comes to governance, I think he's got to take his time. He's got to, recheck himself and to reposition himself. He talks about things he does not know, things he did not witness in government, and contradicts himself. And when you look at it comparatively to things he was saying before, I don't know what changes people, but sometimes they say politics, you don't have permanent friends and enemies. But of course, your integrity should be permanent. Your self-worth and respect and value should not be anything that one compromises for some political gains. I think, Mokorola, I like the
We will have the debate.
debate,
I have a strong feeling that
but
he will accept.
I hope that the debate would be very constructive, and of course,
No, it will be. It will be moderated. It will be constructive.
the common denominator here remains the Gambia, and
Yeah,
we
it
live
will be.
over
It
there.
will be
So,
very. It will be
you
very
know,
constructive. And
yeah.
I'm making this. I'm gonna make a public appeal. I've written to him publicly, accepting the invitation, and I'm doing it again.
Anyway,
It
I,
will
I
be done within the confines of respect, of
Yeah.
brotherly love,
Let's see
and
if he accepts. I saw some people who recently became very good friends to you, writing very nice comments in you. But be very careful. I know
I
people
don't.
who are very hateful, and they jump into other people because they hate other people. They got
No,
association.
let me just say this. Well, I know you know that. I'm everything but an idiot, and
Exactly.
anybody that takes me to be an idiot.
Tal, he's not my friend. He was, look, we both worked at the university. So it's not that we have a personal friendship or whatever, but it's a person I know. So I try not to say much about, what he does. But when it comes to government is not about whom you know. Government is about, that is the common denominator. So therefore, we got to speak truth about the systems that exist in our country. I think Ismaila can do better. I'm not really saying either he's being truthful or economical with the truth. That's him and his ways. But I hope, at the end of the day, people just see the Gambia and the collective good of everyone than just, being blindfolded by personal gains that you're getting and thinking that that's the right thing to do. Because we want the Gambia, like things are not going right. A lot of things got to change. But anyway, let's hope the debate is accepted. That should be, very important for our democracy, that people can, have conversations with state ministers and could have debates and, of course, could challenge each other
I mean,
on
and
things
basically, it's
that
just
make
going to be a
sense.
debate
Okay?
on issues of governance, everything Gambia. Basically, I mean, we'll look at the facts. So for me, it will be about the facts, about dispelling and rebutting, things that are not factual,
Of
things
course,
that are not true.
intellectuals at your caliber, that should be the case, that people really should be able to argue on facts and
You
points and, of
know,
course, give, tangible reasons and justifications to their points and their beliefs. So I am in support of the debate. Let's see how that goes. And I'm not sure. I don't want to really preempt, but let's see if Doctor accepts that. And
I
then
don't know why
we
everybody
take it
keeps
from
saying
there.
he would accept. I'm hoping that he
I
will.
did. I don't think so. I don't think he would or would not. I have no opinion on that for now. But let's see. I hope he accepts, and I hope to, because I know he too would have one thing or another to say. Without prejudice, he might also have some good arguments. And I believe that, of course, at this point in time, anyone in government cannot make any more progressive arguments than I, knowing what is happening in the Gambia and what is happening in government and everything that is
No, but
surrounding it.
I think it is not as bad. I think what is happening is I think the government is doing a lot of brilliant things, to be honest.
Exactly.
But they have a deficiency in strategic communication. They're not branding their themselves very well out there. But it's not everything that the government is doing that is blatantly bad. You
Exactly.
understand?
And,
So
and, and, and when I see
so
people
I
saying,
think it will be a very engaging debate where he could come out and bring out factual, realities of what government is doing by way of progressive government policies. There's from what I'm told, from what I see, there's a lot of infrastructural development, but the thing is, you cannot hide. You cannot hide. No, 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 no. That is subjective. That is subjective. They hide. They are hiring the care
Going to people's house, destroying people's house.
for what?
You did not see what was happening in Sukuta Salaji?
Oh yeah. I know, but that doesn't take the fact that
No, I
government
agree.
is
I agree.
doing
I'm
stuff.
just, I'm just throwing my statement.
As long as people can be adequately compensated. I mean, I wrote about that, and I said you don't blame the people. These are people that were given. They have
But
good
also,
title deeds.
that is
They
one
have sketch
question.
plans. They have
That,
everything.
that is one question. Probably we can close it with that. Do you go about demolition without getting a court order, or in the Gambia that's very normal that you did not actually say this house did not belong to you, it belongs to the state. You did not take them to court to get a court decision that of course it belongs to the state and not the persons residing
Yes,
there.
I think the government can. I think they can. They
Can
can
do that,
embark
right?
on demolition exercise without a court
Without,
order.
oh,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah.
I don't agree with such
Yeah.
principles. I think we need a new constitution.
I think even here in the UK, I mean, you don't have to have a court order to. I mean, there are things that are, public interest things that you don't really need a court order to do certain things. I mean, the government has got some sort of executive powers to do some
Somebody,
things,
somebody
but the law clearly states that these individuals must be informed and they must be adequately compensated. That is what the law says.
Okay.
So, for example, I know in Banjul back in the days, I think Jame did that when they wanted to do the expansion of the ports. So all those houses in, I think it was Hagan or Hill Street or whatever it was called, you know, but people, they were adequately compensated for it. So I think, yes, you can without necessarily going to the courts. But what I think now is that these people can go to the courts to challenge that demolition because I don't think they were adequately prepared. I don't think they were compensated. I don't think the timelines by which they were informed of these things was done in a very credible manner. And most of these people obtained their leases or their titles from the government, from the Ministry of Lands.
Yeah.
They had building permits. They had sketch plans. They have everything. So let's see how that plays out, how that finds out. But I don't think the government is entirely bad. I just think they're not being strategic enough to sell government agenda and showcase what they're doing in a very effective way. What the government keeps doing is rebutting the opposition. So they spend more time. So if you listen to Dr. Cisse on Coffee Time, he spends more time trying to dispel rumors, trying to attack pronouncements of the opposition than actually showcasing what government is doing. And the opposition is doing the same thing. Rather than the opposition telling you what exactly they can do different, what they can bring to the table that will be radically different from what Barra is doing, they're busy attacking what the government is doing. They're busy showcasing the pitfalls of the government. But then most of that time is not adequately spent in selling their brand and telling Gambians what they can do different and convincing the overwhelming number of Gambians that they can come and they can make a change and they can make a difference. So on both sides, I think that is happening. So let's see what happens. But like I said, we hope the challenge will be accepted. But on that note, boy,
have a good night, man.
have a good night, man. Take care. We'll
All right.
be back on Monday the 16th.
Sure.
All right. Bye bye.